This bill is a very grave mistake, and there are numerous reasons to oppose it. Any one of them by themselves would be enough, but taken together, they make this quite possibly the worst piece of legislation brought before this House by this government, and that's saying something. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the legal consequences of passing this bill are largely negative. It drives a coach and horses through the withdrawal agreement. Ministers should not need reminding that the withdrawal agreement is part of a solemn and binding international treaty, and that breaching a treaty breaches international law. Further, the passage of this bill has wider international legal consequences. It undermines the basis of the Good Friday Agreement, another solemn, agreed trade international treaty which has laid the basis for peace in Ireland. It's absolutely not the case that the withdrawal agreement undermines the Good Friday Agreement, as some ministers now wish to claim. None of the main political parties in Ireland agree with ministers on this point. And whilst I'm on the theme of undermining different parts of these aisles, I would point out that this legislation risks the integrity of our union by undermining the devolution settlement. Any government that claims to be truly unionist would not develop legislation without the cooperation, collaboration and above all the consent of the devolved administrations. This is not what this legislation does. This bill also calls into question the good faith of this government in its entire dealings with international partners. Must they now factor in the integrity of Her Majesty's government into discussions and agreements? Does the government really want to make us that country known for reneging on its agreements because we later find them inconvenient? I want to focus my remaining remarks on the wider impact on this country of what the government proposes. It's now clear that this government is aiming for an enormously damaging no-deal outcome to the Brexit negotiations. Now, let me be clear, a no-deal outcome will be disastrous for the living standards of people in this country. If the shocking revelations of the Operation Yellowhammer leak weren't bad enough, forecasts by the Cabinet's Office's EU Transition Task Force go considerably further and combine the potential issue of no deal with a second wave of coronavirus. Shortages of fresh food, medicine and fuel, even chemicals for water purification, as well as price hikes on everyday items. Worst case scenario, yes, but would a government that cared even risk it? I simply can't get my head around the fact that this government are attempting to push through a project that the Treasury's own analysis says will lower GDP by 6.9% and destroy jobs. An analysis that was made even before the effects of the pandemic, which are a far cry from those Conservative Party posters we saw that said we're taking back control to protect jobs and businesses. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this bill is an enormous act of self-harm. It damages us legally, reputationally and economically. And as government ministers admit, it's literally criminal to pass it. Thank you.